Disclaimer. To the Pharisees and Karens out there.
How dare you!
All guests on this show do not reflect the opinions of the host. The purpose of this show is to have interesting conversations, stretch our minds, and grow.
Not what we want!
If you are looking for an echo chamber, viewer and listener discretion
is advised.
You talk about extreme.
What is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we're about to fill it up.
Torches high.
You know, look at it from a different perspective.
Hey guys, what is happening and what is up? Hold out your glass, because we are about to fill it up. Hey, welcome to the Prometheus Lens Podcast, the place where the conversations are always enlightening. I'm your host, Doc Brown, and here we like to use the allegory of the Prometheus Lens to take a second look at everything. Hey guys, if you're new to the channel, welcome to the hero's journey. Be sure and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Be sure to check out our social medias on our various platforms, and that'd be much, much appreciated. I got a returning guest on the show today. He's got some big news. We're going to talk about mounds and giants and some ancient America. You know, these are a few of my favorite things. And he's got a pretty big announcement for you guys. Got a field trip coming up. I think you guys are going to be highly interested in. But I'd like to welcome back to the show Fritz Zimmerman. Fritz, thanks for coming and hanging out with us today, man.
Yeah, good to be back.
And got a new guest, a longtime friend. We met at the Blurry Creatures conference, and we hit it right off. And we've been in contact ever since. But I'd like to welcome to the show for the first time, Jordan Orr. Jordan, thank you, buddy.
Thanks for having me on. Huge fan of both Fritz and you, and it's just awesome to be here with you, both of you guys. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah.
5 minutes north of Chillicothe, and I do quite a bit of travel around Chillicothe, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, doing different kinds of communications work. And so the history of this just caught my attention during the 2020 COVID period, and I started making connections. Like I saw the Holy Spirit putting together the boyish dreams in my mind, thinking about the Serpent Mounds, and it started really in Columbus, near what, Fritz, you'll know the Shrum Mound, which is one of the last big conical mounds in Columbus. It was behind my first apartment, and I was just fascinated by it. And so just recently in the years, I've discovered your books, Fritz, and some of these podcasts like Justin's, who are putting this stuff together. And man, I've just been fascinated by it. And in my work in politics, I've noticed that downtown in Columbus, Ohio, especially, I shared this with Justin, there's a big mound that's missing in downtown Columbus on a place called Mound Street. And I noticed the other day that the Ohio State House, the Capitol, has a plaque that mentions, it describes what happened when they built the State House, that commemorates it. And it says they built the Ohio State Mouse out of Indian mound clay.
Yes.
And they formed the wall.
Mound Street, that was a huge mound, and they took it down. But now, see, you mentioned the Shrum Mound, and since I published Nephilim Chronicles, a travel guide, if you go to the Shrum Mound and go to that quarry, there is another mound out there in that water. It's called the Quarry Mound. It's completely unlisted. If you go online, I posted pictures that I've got from Google Earth. It's the Quarry Mound, but it's a sister mound right there to the Shrum Mound. And when they were building that quarry, they did not, because they're digging down, right? So they left an island. They dug around it. And so the mound is still there. So if you walk across that busy street, McKinley Avenue or whatever that is, and look over that water, you're going to see a mound about the same size as the Shrum Mound. And I did, John Lasker from the Columbus Dispatch, he did an article on that because I sent that information to him. And I got some pushback from the Ohio History Connection because They weren't aware of it, but I found a map of the history of Columbus, Ohio from like 1905 or something. And they listed the mound and they mapped it. So I had a map and I had a picture of the mound because people were saying it wasn't a mound, but it's like, no, it's already been mapped. And so the quarry mound is right there next to the Shrum mound. So the next time you go, check that out. Now, I have not personally gone there and looked at it. I'm going to go to Newark May 1st. And so I may check that out. But yeah, there is another mound there. The other big news is that the Newark Henge, also called the Great Circle Mound, but it's a henge, that is aligned to the May 1st Beltane sunrise. And it is also aligned then to solar opposite. If you stand outside of the gateway, it will align perfect on October 31st at sunset. And that
Now I remember you mentioning that the last time we had a conversation that you thought it was going to line up on San Juan.
well, it does.
But you had,
it does, and those
you had already
been there for October 31st. I've been there for May 1st. You can look up Newark Henge, Beltane, and you can see pictures of it. Look up Newark Henge, Samhain, and you'll see pictures of that also. It's not.
you had mentioned it. Do you want to go ahead and let the listeners know about a cool excursion that you got going on?
Well, I'm going to be there. I was there last year, May 1st, where you can stand out at the bird effigy in the middle of the henge. And the bird effigy is lined up right there with the gateway. And when you're standing there, the sun will come up. Now it gets blocked as it's coming up because the Ohio Historical Connection, in their wisdom, not knowing and being completely ignorant to the fact that that is a solar temple, built their museum right in line with the gateway. So the sun will come up, you'll see it behind the museum, and then it'll pop out on the other side. And once it clears that, but it's still lined up perfectly with the gateway, but it is blocked. Now, the picture that I have online is that I had drone operators. So they got up above the museum, and then you're looking into the distance, but it's a perfect alignment. What we're going to talk about is the ancient religion of sacred geometry and the circle and the square. And the circle represents the male and the square represents the female. The circle represents the spiritual, and the square basically represents more of an earthly. So what you're going to do is you're going to combine those. And the ancient geometer's art was to be able to square the circle, which mathematically you cannot do, because the square, you're looking at whole numbers, and the circle, you're looking at fractions. You're looking at pi r squared to get the circumference. So what the geometer would try to do is to make the circle and the square equal areas, or to make the circumference of the circle equal to the sum total of the sides of the square. Okay. So now we're looking at this, and you see the red and you see green, right?
Yeah.
All right. The circle and the octagon. All right. Look at the red circle. The red circle is equal area to the red square that is just opposite the henge. So the henge is there on your lower right. So that circle, both in red, and that square are equal areas. If you place a square within the octagon, it is the equal area of the henge. Okay. Now, in the lower right, you have the green circle and you have the red square. There, and opposite that, square. All right. The circle has a circumference of 3,700 feet. The sides of each of the square are 925 feet. So the sum total of the sides of that square are equal to the circumference of the hinge.
Yep.
Now, by doing that, you have created what's called the sacred marriage of opposites. That's an ancient religion, ancient geometry. So it's a sacred religion, a sacred marriage of the opposites. You would know that more now called the yin yang.
With the price of eggs and bread slowly approaching a day's wages, it's more important than ever than to secure the value of your dollar. One thing that has remained steady is gold and silver throughout the ages. Back in Roman times, a piece of gold would get you a toga. That's the equivalent of $3,000 today. That still remains true to this day. For a full suit, shoes, tie, you're looking at about $3,000. Because gold and silver holds its value. So if you're tired of watching the value of your dollar go down every single day, it's time to get off your hands and make a move. I've recently teamed with Cornerstone Asset and Metals. Reach out to those guys for all of your financial needs. It's time to trade in that forever devaluing dollar into hard assets that you can hold, like gold and silver. Be sure and check the link down in the description or the number on the screen. And hey, tell them Doc Brown sent you. Are you a hunter, a hiker, or just an outdoor enthusiast? Well, if you are, you know that good quality gear is hard to come by. And finding all-American made is like finding Bigfoot in the woods. Hence the name of Squatch Survival Gear. Head on over to squatchsurvivalgear.com. Use the code PLP10 for 10% off store-wide.
Okay, this is
somebody in the chat that wanted to ask you about stone mounds. They wanted to know if you found many stone mounds. Apparently, where they're from, they see lots of stone mounds.
Yeah, the largest stone mound in Ohio. You can still see it. A little tough to see in the winter or in the summer months, but that is over in Butler County. It's one of the address restricted, but generally, stone mounds were relatively small. And when I was at Cedarville, Ohio, there's some stone mounds there, and we had our voice recorder out, and we were at one of the stone mounds and caught an EVP. It was crazy. So there was voices there, so that was pretty cool. But generally, the largest stone mound was just south of Newark on the other side of I-70. It was 60 foot tall, and they dismantled it. This is so idiotic. They dismantled this massive stone mound, 60 feet tall, because they were building the reservoir for Columbus, Ohio. Now, it took 5,000 wagon loads of stone on horse and carriage before they whittled it down. There's a little bit of the stone mountain still left, but nothing, of course, of what it was. So that is the mother of all stone mounds right there. Like I said, it's on private property. You can still see some of the stones. There's maybe like 4 or 5 foot of that left, but at one time, 60 foot. 60 foot was there. So,
Fritz, I think they used it to build that dam at Buckeye Lake, as you said. And just recently, in the last 10 years, that dam failed, which caused.
Yeah, there is. I mean, gematria. I mean, it's a whole nother, study. But it does play out, again in the mounds, and you just have to ask yourself: is all of this serendipitous? Is all the math, all the numerology, that it all paints to exactly what it should be doing? The numbers match up. The sacred geometry matches up. The mathematics and the squaring of the circle, it all matches up, and it matches up with something that we have a historical grasp on to say exactly what it means. So it all kind of works out where you don't. We're not taking puzzle pieces and forcing them into the slots. They just fit perfectly. Everything fits. Everything is where it's supposed to be. Everything is the shape it's supposed to be. Everything is the measure that it's supposed to be. So there's really little doubt of, what we're dealing with or who we're dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. Which you recently just published a new book. Do you want to tell the listeners a little bit about that book? Because it's kind of correlated to the mounds and stuff, but it's from a different perspective this go around, isn't it?
Well, everything that I've been talking about this numerology at Newark, that is all in Ancient America, the Dark Side. That's my latest book. So if you want to do more of a deep dive into what we've been talking about, that's in Ancient America, the Dark Side. That just came out in October of last year. And also in that, I share different paranormal things that have happened to me. And then the book really came around because people had contacted me over the years that had paranormal experiences at the Serpent Mound, at different mound sites, Fort Hill, south of Chillicothe, different places where they were living with like a mound on their property, and shadow people that they saw and disembodied voices. I mean, just the whole complete gamut of paranormal activity happens around these burial mounds. And so I go in and I interview those people, and they tell their story of, what they experienced. And, I think that goes perfectly with, May 1 Beltane, October 31st, Samhain. And so, here we have these earthworks, especially in Newark, that were actually made to be portals that are connecting the living with the dead. And that's why I say it's like you can, go to Halloween or do whatever you do on Halloween. But if you want to live Halloween, go to Newark, Ohio, go to the Hinge. And, that is going to be replicated also on May 1, because May 1 to the ancients. Now, this is a religion that was practiced by the Celts, but the Celts were taught this by an earlier people. So the actual roots of this go back to the ancient Levant. But, if you want to learn about, what's going on, the easiest thing is learn the Celtic religion of Beltane and that's going to get you where you need to be. But I'm just saying that was passed on. That wasn't something that was invented or, by the Celts. That was something that was passed on to them.
Well, with all your trips out there, Fritz, what's been your craziest experience or most supernatural experience that you've had dealing with these mounds? I'd love to hear that.